In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this wooden table board. So this board for the bottom of the cake that looks more like a wooden table than a wooden floor. And I used an airbrush to do it. So to start off, you want to cover whatever size board you're using with fondant. You can just roll out a big piece of fondant and then lift it up and put a little bit of water on your board first and then cover the board, smooth it down with a fondant smoother, cut around the edge with a pizza roller or a disposable razor, or you could actually flip the board with a little bit of water on it on top of your piece of fondant and then cut around the edge with a pizza roller or a disposable razor. Either way will work fine. And I am using a quilting ruler here, and I'm just spacing out every 2 inches. I'm using my pizza roller and my quilting ruler to make straight lines going the entire length of the board. I'm just kind of rolling back and forth to make sure that they're nice and deep. You don't want to cut all the way through the fondant, but you do want to get them so that they're very visible when you are finished at the end here. This is a very simple treatment to the board, which I like to keep things as simple as possible because we've got time for extra time once you're done making the cake to spend on the board. So keeping this nice and simple, I'm just using my pizza roller. Once I've made those deep lines, now I'm making very shallow lines, just back and forth, lots of them. You can, you don't want to cross them, like a diagonal, but you can roll over them several times once you've already made. Just keep going up and down, back and forth, not deep at all, lightly, and then when we airbrush them, you will definitely see them in the end. This gives it more of a finished tabletop look than a wood floor look, which sometimes is kind of nice to change it up a little bit like that. So once you're done doing that, get out your airbrush and your airbrush spray booth, because you did not want to get color particles traveling all around your house, up floors, in the bathroom, in the bathtub when you turn it on. Trust me, I've heard the horror stories. You definitely want to have an airbrush spray booth so you don't have a big cleanup problem at the end of spraying. I forgot, before we get out the airbrush, just using the pizza cutter to do perpendicular lines, just to create, planks of wood. I staggered them so that they would not look super even. Now I've got my airbrush out, and I am starting with warm brown. I had a little bit of chocolate brown in my airbrush gun first from a project I was doing, and that was okay because we're actually going to be putting chocolate brown on top of this warm brown. But to start, cover the whole board with your warm brown. Don't worry about getting it even, because that's the beauty of a wood finish. It is never supposed to be even. So just cover it with warm brown so that there isn't any white left over. Get the edges, and then we're going to move to chocolate brown. Now be careful, if you're new to airbrushing, you want to be careful that you don't spill the color out of that container that you poured it into, because if you do that, you're going to have blotches all over your work. So just be very careful as you're going back and forth when you're doing that. I've made that mistake way too many times. Again, this does not have to be an even coat. In fact, it shouldn't be an even coat. We want it to be browner in some areas and less brown in other areas. Now I've moved on to black, and I'm taking the black and I'm going up and down the lines with it. You do not have to be perfect with this. Again, it's wood floor. Wood floors aren't perfect. So just do your best to get close to those lines, the ones going across and the ones going straight up and down. And this just kind of gives it that added dimension to bring it to life. You know me and dimension. I know I use that word all the time. But it really adds a lot, adding the black. And I'm going around the edges as well, and that just gives it a nice final touch. And then you can add black in some random spaces if you want. There aren't really knots in this wood board because it's not a floor. It's more of a finished look, like like a tabletop, like we talked about before. And that is really basically it. A nice, quick and easy, if you have an airbrush, wood table finish that you could really use for so many different cakes. I made a stack of antique books cake that went on top of this for a party in our family, and it really just added the final touch I needed. You can use it for just about anything you want to. I hope that that was easy to follow and that you enjoyed. If you want to see the antique book cake tutorial, you can head over to cakeheads.com, as that is up for members over there. Thanks, see you later.